Well, hello, Catherine Langman back with you for another episode on the Scale My Shopify Store podcast. Great to have you here again with me and really excited to share today's topic with you. Now, most e-commerce brands that are struggling to grow right now are stuck because they're making one critical error. They just don't have the right overarching growth strategy in place. Now, it's not that these brands aren't implementing some marketing strategies. They're usually implementing a bunch of tactics like email marketing, posting content on social media, maybe spending some money on ads, sometimes even SEO. But if you're doing all of that and finding that it's still not working, and if you've ever said to me or, to yourself or to anyone else that you've tried every marketing strategy under the sun and it's just not working, then you are probably missing this as well. At the end of the day, all of those marketing and advertising channels are just that. They're communication channels, and in and of themselves, they're not strategies. So, for example, over the last few weeks, I have been welcoming some new clients into our mastery program and personally designing growth strategies for their businesses. But I want to tell you about one in particular. She's got a really gorgeous brand. She has been growing it quite well over several years now, but over the last 12 months, she has really plateaued and she's had no year-on-year growth. And when she started working with me initially, she said that she feels like she's tried everything, but it's just not working, and she's stuck at this same level. And she was also making the assumption or having the belief that the state of the economy was to blame. Now, I don't want to discount that. There definitely are ways in which the cost of living and the state of the economy impacts businesses, some more than others, of course. But 9 times out of 10, that's not the cause of these brands' struggle when I look under the hood. So in this episode, I really want to share with you how I personally go about designing growth strategies that make millions of dollars, even in today's market. And to accompany this episode, I've actually recorded a short tutorial video about how I actually accurately calculate the e-commerce revenue growth projections. So if you'd like to access this short training for free, just head to catherinelangman.com/dashboard. We will, of course, include the link to that free tutorial in the show notes for this episode. But for now, let us dive into the topic for today's episode. And I'm really, really excited to bring this one to you. Now, I want to just dive in a little bit more to the scenario that was happening with this new client, this recently new client of mine, because it is extremely common and it's a excellent, relevant example that will, probably be familiar for many of you listeners to the show. So what was happening, like I said before, she had some really good growth over the years since she had launched, but had plateaued over the last year and was, really stuck at the same level. So she hadn't had any year-on-year growth over the last year. And what I could see going on in there was that, she was doing all of the right things in terms of using those different channels, but the marketing strategies that she was using were, really just sending out discounts. And I'm not afraid of using discounts. I think they have their place. And, certainly sometimes when we are trying to acquire new customers or bring existing customers back who maybe have lapsed for a while, they can, they have their place, right? They're useful tools that as marketers, we certainly want to use them sometimes when it is the right kind of strategy for that moment. But the issue with it being the main content of your marketing plan is that essentially sharing a discount, it's like, come and buy from me, here's my beautiful products and here's a discount. It's essentially assuming that the audience you're sharing that with has already decided that whatever your product is the solution to their need in the moment, right? There's nothing that is helping them to, to come to that decision. So the discount itself is a tool that helps with conversions, but it's really only going to be helping the people who have already, passed through that kind of awareness and consideration phase of their buyer journey, and they've already made the decision that whatever you sell is the kind of thing that they want. All right. And they might be weighing your brand up with a competitor's brand. And, that might be where their decision is swayed by a discount. So I want you to sort of have a think about, the potential audience for your brand and for your business. Think of it like a highway where you have, you've got the fast lane of traffic, you've got the slow lane of traffic, and then you've got the footpath or the sidewalk. And, so essentially you'll have about, 2 to 5% of that traffic is speeding by in the fast lane. They're the people who are ready to buy right now, right? So your discounts are useful to kind of target that particular audience, but there's 98% of the rest of the traffic on this highway are, they're either pottering along in the slow lane, or they're dawdling along on the footpath or the sidewalk. And, they aren't even, the people on the sidewalk, they're not even really aware that you exist yet. The people in the slow lane, they might be aware that you exist, or they might have only just discovered that you exist. So you have to really think about what kind of marketing that you need to really, bring a few more of these people into the fast lane, so to speak. I think I've taken that analogy as far as it needs to go, right? So when I'm personally working on a client's growth strategy, I'm definitely starting with the goals and, what are their growth goals for the next 12 months and for the next 3 years. And, really thinking through what that is going to look like, or what that needs to look like from a month-on-month revenue perspective, but also what are the other performance metrics that need to be achieved in order for those revenue growth goals to, be the end result, right? Like revenue that you make in your business, that's the lag metric. Like you want to break down what are the lead metrics, what comes before that produces that kind of a result. And so, we really need to look through the business to work out, what kind of conversion rate, what kind of traffic volume, what kind of average order value, what kind of returning customer rate, and all of that sort of stuff is necessary in order to produce that revenue result. I don't really have a sense of how many of you guys, how many e-commerce business owners really think about that revenue goal in that way. I mean, it's potentially a little bit more common to just think about revenue goals and then go from there. But, it really is essential to break that down a little bit further and really have a think through what are the components that really make up generating that revenue. And, what is it now, but what does it need to be in order to make that a profitable revenue goal to achieve, right? And so once you've got that, from there, we can then start working out the media plan. So this is where, how much of that traffic and revenue is, what percentage is already coming from your various different channels, but how much do you need to be getting from those various different channels in order to, again, hit those revenue targets, but to do so profitably. And, to start figuring out how much traffic you need to get from those different channels based on, those metrics that we've already broken down, right? Now, what I would say is a lot of people who really are thinking about marketing strategy or growth strategy for their e-commerce brand, they might go through those steps, but then they'll frequently stop there. They'll I think probably the most common pathway that I have come across over my 20-something years of working in this space is that people think through their revenue targets, and then, they estimate how much traffic that they might need to get to their website to hit that. And they might go so far as thinking about, at whatever particular conversion rate and average order value. But that's often where people stop. They're not really thinking about, what is the goal cost per customer acquisition. They're not really thinking through what is the goal percentage of traffic from different channels in order to be profitable, or any of those sorts of things. So, it's a fairly limited strategy if you're stopping there. And so what I want to talk you through is the following, probably like 5 steps that I would be going through next after planning out those goals and metrics and the media plan, and figuring out things like ad budgets, and platform distribution and things like that. So actually, before I just go on, when you're thinking about things like ad budgets and platform distribution, you do really have to have some idea of your customer avatar. And so customer avatar is where I start in terms of the next steps. So, in particular, like customer avatar, you might know this exercise as figuring out your, customers' demographics, maybe things like, where they live, gender, age, things like that. Whether you go further than that, I'm not sure, but it is very useful to really think through from a platform perspective, where are they hanging out? Because there's certainly, our necessity as e-commerce marketers is to be able to, help our target audience discover our brand first, but also to be communicating with them on the channels that they're using the most. So understanding those demographics and media consumption habits and things like that is super important. But also, taking it a step further and really specifically thinking through your customers' emotions, and in particular around their need or desire that is triggering their purchase decision in the first place. So what is it that they need, want, or desire right now? And then also their emotions around the outcome that they really want to experience. And, I would say that understanding that kind of story arc about your audience is, it's uncommon that I see people really thinking through that particular story arc in the kind of detail that is really necessary to be successful in your marketing. And you can kind of, if you've ever read the book Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, if you've not read it, I highly recommend it. But he talks about this story arc as kind of like the hero's journey. And so, if you think about that in the context of a movie like, say, Star Wars, there's the need is dire because the world is about to be blown up by the baddies, and of course Luke Skywalker has this journey of journey of discovery, really, where he has to he ends up being tested, but he has to acquire some skills and some knowledge and the courage and the this, that, and the other in order to win the day. I'm shortening this Star Wars story a lot here, I know, but he has some help along the way, of course, and then in the end he discovers the secret that helps him to ultimately triumph. So understanding this this customer avatar and their buyer journey in this way is really, really critical. And hopefully, hopefully you listened to my episode a couple of weeks back. Don't recall which one it was, but I did one about your creative content and having a creative content process in your business that helps you to achieve your growth targets and growth goals. And this is why it's so critical, because when you are scaling a business and you're trying to present your brand to a bigger, wider audience, and to be able to drive a lot more traffic to your website that ultimately converts into sales, you actually need a lot of content. The bigger you get and the more traffic that you are needing to drive to your website and the more customers that you need to acquire. I mean, that's, the process of scaling up. You need to have a lot more content that, is really communicating this story arc to your particular audience in a whole variety of different ways. So starting with that customer avatar exercise and really diving into that buyer journey is my kind of first step. And then from there, how can we connect and engage with your audience on that kind of emotional level? What are the stories, the scenarios, or the situations that are really going to resonate? And there should be a number of them. There shouldn't just be one, because again, that's going to really limit your ability to scale and to grow. And so really just, figuring out what that creative content is going to be or needs to be in order for you to, get the brand discovery, in order for you to drive the traffic and convert the sales profitably. So step number 2 there is figuring out how we can connect and engage on emotional level, but then how we can do so by telling stories in your visual content, so videos, static images, animated GIFs, whatever, a whole variety, hopefully, and of course in words as well. And you want to be doing those 2 steps well before you start creating content to put into your social media ads or to send on emails or put out organically, right? So you don't start by just going, oh, I've got to put some content up. I'm just going to throw up these product images and, that's my job done. That's a lazy approach to start with, even if it is, you trying to save time because you're busy doing a lot of things, but it's not going to help. At the end of the day, if you take that route, you are probably not going to expand the size of your audience. So that'll limit your growth. But secondly, again, if you're just sharing product images and product information, you are assuming that whoever's looking at them have already decided that they want to buy your stuff. And so you're not going to be connecting that other 90% or 98% of the traffic on the virtual highway with the other sorts of content that's going to actually resonate with where they're at right now. From there, the next step is to really refine what is your offer. And so by offer, a lot of people, this is where people are just, the knee-jerk reaction is to reach for a discount or an incentive, a financial incentive like that. And that's not necessarily what I mean. I mean, like I said earlier, discounts definitely have their place and other financial incentives have their place. But that's not really what I mean. What I mean is, what is the specific value or experience to the customer? Because, again, that's that, the last part of that buyer journey that we really want to be identifying and articulating, and then finding a way to phrase it that is going to, be really engaging and also really successful at getting people to take action, right? So what is that kind of outcome or experience that your customers want? And you need to be able to find a way to really, have that engaging hook kind of way to communicate that brand promise to your customers. So once you figure that out, in conjunction with working through those stories, scenarios, and situations that are, form the basis of your creative content, that's going to help you to really engage with your ideal customer on that more emotional level, and then be able to communicate your offer as in the form of that really click-worthy product value or brand value statement, brand promise, right? So from there, how can you then demonstrate and give confidence that your product will actually, provide that value to the customer? It's one thing for you, the brand owner, to say this about your own brand, but how else can you give your audience the confidence that that is what they will also experience when they buy from you? So really being able to think through how to communicate that is going to be fairly key. So, and again, this is going to, again, there might be some discount, there might be some risk reversal type strategies like discounts. There should be also other risk reversal strategies in there, like, maybe a guarantee or, some kind of credibility lifting strategies like independent PR, definitely things like awards, also, your independently verified social proof, user-generated content as well. There's a whole variety of different ways that you can and should be, working to give your potential customers the confidence to try your stuff, right? And then, from there, we're going to be looking at things like, how can we increase or improve that returning customer rate as well? So, the other things that I was talking about, that's more about increasing your new customer acquisition. But, how can you keep those customers coming back again and again? That is, achieving that is going to really help you to improve your profitability. And so, there will be things like promotions that you might plan according to, there might be a common buying cycle throughout the year where you have, typical peaks and troughs. Particularly if you have a seasonal business or if it's a, gifting sort of product, there's going to be certain buying cycles. There should also be new products that you launch, various different ways that you can encourage customers to repeat purchase with you. But once you've gone through all of that, being able to distribute all of this kind of strategic marketing communications via the different channels is important. So, really key to know how much of, like right at the start, how much of your traffic and sales should be coming from those different channels, whether it's organic search, email marketing, paid social media ads, Google ads, whatever the case may be, the various different channels. And, and that kind of, is the formulation of the, your growth strategy. But again, you don't want to just stop there. You definitely want to be implementing I guess you call it a little bit, using a little bit of the scientific approach with your digital marketing. So it's about really monitoring, recording your metrics, using that information to interpret what's working best and what you can double down on and what maybe you need to revise or actually cut out. And so being able to iterate and iterate again and again, perhaps with refinements, perhaps with new content ideas, perhaps with new promotions and all of that kind of stuff. And being able to do that in a, have that accurate tracking methodology that then has a process around how you use that information, the process being, iterating week on week to make sure that you are on track to achieve those monthly revenue targets. And, having that process helps you to make timely decisions and better quality decisions and, help you to be more successful at achieving the specific goals that you've set. So I hope that, and that kind of really brings me to the end of that, growth strategy design process that I work through. I really hope that you have enjoyed listening to this episode. Hopefully it's given you a few ideas about how you might be able to up your game a little bit with regards to marketing your business and achieving the growth that you're really, really looking for. Now, of course, if you are interested in having my help to cut short that planning and implementation process and help you to achieve the learning as well as the results a little bit faster, then I do actually have a couple of spots left in my mastery program. So if you'd like to investigate that, you can book in for a free strategy session. All you need to do is go to productpreneurmarketing.com/let's-talk. And of course, I will include that link in the show notes for today's episode as well. That brings me to the end of the episode. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to being on the show with you again next week. Bye for now.